Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of Building on WordPress. My name is Josh Donnelly, and in today's episode, we are actually going to piggyback on the previous video I did with regard to using the native drop-down element for tooltips, which I think is pretty cool. Got a lot of questions, though, about how you could do this with inline text, and that's something that we're going to take a look at here today. Now, I'm going to breeze through this one, so the CSS and the JavaScript that I'm going to go over today can be found in the description below. We're not going to go over it line by line, but I'll show you how easy it is to add tooltip styles to standard text. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we're going to do this. So first things first, let's go ahead and start from scratch. Here we have what you guys saw in the previous video. So we'll go ahead and delete section 1 and section 2 here, and we'll go ahead and start from scratch. Now, here in the section, we're going to go ahead and just add a div with global margin, just for the sake of giving some structure to our page. Then we'll jump into our elements, and we'll go ahead and add a text element out here. So let's go ahead and write a simple sentence here, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this in p tags. So let's go ahead and type, this is a sentence and this is a tooltip, hover here to see more, period. Okay, so this is our brief little sentence here, and we want the word here to be our tooltip. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap here in a class. So we're going to add a span here, and then we'll say class equals CS tooltip, end quote. And then we need to add our actual tooltip. So what do we want the tooltip to say? So we're going to add data tooltip text equals, this is my tooltip, and I want you to read this sentence after reading the first sentence. Something like that there. We'll go ahead and end our quotes, close out our span here. And then we want to make sure that the word that we want to include the tooltip is wrapped in that span as well. So that would be the word here. So we'll go to the end of the word here, and we'll close out our span. And then we still have the to see more. Okay, that is great. Okay, so now that we have our sentence written and we have our tooltip text included in there, and we've wrapped our tooltip word in the class CS tooltip, we can begin adding some custom styles. So we're going to go ahead and open up our custom code here, and I would normally apply this to your global CSS, but I've got a bunch of other stuff in there so it would look messy. Let's go ahead and just apply this to our archive layout CSS here, which is the page that we are working on. So we're going to go ahead and paste that in here, and let's just talk briefly about what this is doing. First and foremost, CS-tooltip is the word here, and so you'll notice it has position relative, display inline block, cursor, pointer, so the pointer on the front end should change, and then it's underlining it so that it is obvious that it is something. If you didn't want that, you would simply remove text decoration underline, and now you obviously can't tell, but when you hover on here, the tooltip will show. Then we have the tooltip itself, so our tooltip text, and this is the container and the text that it lives in. Obviously, this is hidden initially. It has a width of 200 pixels. You could adjust that for your designs. It has a background color of black. You can obviously change that, and it has a text color of white, text align center, yada, 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 yada. And then a little tooltip arrow. This is the caret that sort of connects it to the word below. And then we have our hover state. So when it's hovered on, it is visible with an opacity of 1. And that's all great, but now we need to add a little bit of JavaScript to monitor the class. So what we're going to do is add that JavaScript in. We'll go into our global JS here, and we'll go ahead and paste this in here. And you'll notice that this is an event listener on the page, and it is selecting all elements with the CS-tooltip class. And then for each element with that class, it's getting the value of the data-tooltip-text attribute. And if there is a value in there, it's creating a span and building out our tooltip. So if we go ahead and we save this, and then I'm actually going to jump back over to our CSS here and add back in our text decoration underline, because I think it looks good to know where you're supposed to hover. We'll go ahead and save that. Now let's jump over to the front end of the site and refresh. And now we have, this is a sentence and this is a tooltip. Hover here, and there is our tooltip to see more. Now you'll notice it's falling behind other items. So what we could do is come in here and we could add a priority here where we have z index 1. We could add 99999, save, refresh, and now when we hover on here, it is showing up where it should. This is my tooltip, yada, yada, yada. Now that we have that built, we can go back in here. We don't have to worry about the CSS or the JavaScript anymore. Now, anywhere that you want a tooltip, you could come in here. You could keep on writing text and adding tooltips in as you see fit. Then you would just grab this where it says tooltips. We would add span class equals cs dash tooltip data tooltip text equals this is another tooltip, end quote, bam. And then we'll make sure that our span, maybe it wraps a few words here, is added there, and save. Now, all we have to do is jump back to the front end and refresh, and you'll see we have a tooltip here. This is my tooltip, and I want you to read this sentence after reading the first sentence. But you could keep on writing text and adding tooltips, and there you see this is another tooltip as you see fit. Now, if we wanted to change the color of those tooltips or the sizing of those tooltips, all of that can be done in the CSS. So we could say that we wanted this to actually be a width of 100, which might look a little wonky here, but you'll see what I mean. And then we could come in here and you could change this to a hex value or an RGB value, or simply type in something like red. And then we might want to come down to our tooltip arrow, the little caret, and we'll type in red here as well. We'll go ahead and save, jump back out to the front end, refresh our page. And then when we hover on here, you'll notice that it is 100 pixels, so it looks really squished, but it is red now, and the little caret is red as well. And if we jump over to this one, the same is true. If we jump back over here and we jump into our 100 pixel width and we make this 250 and we save, and we jump back out to the front end, we refresh the page and we hover on the word here, you'll notice that it is now wider at 300 pixels. And if we jump on over to tooltips in as, you'll notice that that is 300 pixels as well. So now you can see how you can easily add tooltips into your standard text elements using a simple class and a data attribute. As always, I hope you guys find these videos useful, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.